We got a new and updated star power tier list. I'm going to tell you the best and worst star powers in Brawl Stars and why. Let's get into it. Alright, now we're going to rank every star power 1 through 25 and put them in a tier. And the higher rank they are and the higher tier they are, the more reliant on that star power that brawler is to be as successful as possible. Now, if you do like these sort of tier lists, definitely subscribe because I do a lot more to help you out. Also, big shout out to the Coach Cory Pro Squad who helped make this tier list. If you're looking for top pro players to follow in Brawl Stars, definitely follow these guys. I got links to do so in the description below. Now, we're going to start out at the bottom of the tier list. In the F tier, the only F tier star power at number 25, it's going to be Penny. Penny star power. Come on, it's a long-range cannon, 12 tiles, and the only time that star power is ever useful is when that cannon explodes. And you're putting that cannon as far away from the enemy as possible, so it doesn't really happen that often, and even then, it's kind of random and not even that reliable. So Penny star power, definitely the worst in the game and the only F-tier star power. Now we're going into the D tier at number 24. It's going to be El Primo star power. El Primo star power adds a little bit of damage to his super, but honestly, every time an El Primo supers, even without his star power, he's probably going to kill you at least 90% of the time, at least if he's full health or somewhere around there. It's very, very hard to avoid dying when an El Primo actually hits you with their super, and that star power doesn't add that much damage, and it really isn't that important. So it's going to be pretty low. But next, the last and the only other star power in the D tier, it's actually going to be Bo's. Now, in the prior star power ranking, Bo was the #1 star power. But since then, his star power has been changed. The range used to be a 6-tile vision in the bush. Now it's 4. And at 4 tiles, it's really not that useful. It doesn't give you that much extra reaction time or advantage over other brawlers. If you encounter a brawler within 4 tiles of you, almost every single brawler in the game is going to have the chance to attack you. So it really doesn't give you the opportunity to avoid brawlers, which is what you want with a star power like that. Not to mention, 2 of his best maps for that star power, Cavern Churn and Island Invasion, both got removed. So both star power is not nearly as useful as it used to be. All right, now we're in the C tier. There's going to be a lot of C tier star powers. At number 22, it's going to be Frank. Now, Frank's star power adds a good amount of damage, but it only occurs when he gets a kill. And honestly, once he gets a kill, it can be hard to get that second one, you know, within that star power that often, or get a lot of use out of it. It does add good damage, but it's hard to consistently be able to use that star power that often. Frank, of course, is not, I mean, he stops every time he attacks. He's not a very movable brawler, so he's not always going to get it, especially too when there's less enemies on the field because you just killed someone. There's even less chance to get use of it. At 21, it's going to be Colt. Colt's star power is definitely nice, and it adds a lot of small benefits, but he's also definitely not very reliant on his star power to be successful. His main thing is a damage dealer, and that little bit of speed does help him catch up to enemies a little bit and able to counter tanks a little bit easier since they're not going to catch up to him quite as fast. But otherwise, it's honestly just a small boost in a lot of different areas, and he's honestly not that reliant on it to be really successful. At 20, it's going to be Pam. Now, Pam's star power definitely adds a little bit of nice healing for herself. Not often going to be healing her teammates that often. You got to be really close to Pam for that ability to affect her teammates as well. It's going to happen sometimes, but really not that often. So it's really a small amount of healing for Pam. It's honestly not a high amount of healing though, and especially since Pam already has her turret, it's not quite as needed as it would be otherwise. At 19, it's going to be Brock. Now, Brock's star power adds a bit of extra damage to every attack, and it's definitely not bad, but it's also not amazing. It doesn't add a ton of damage throughout the game. It does add a small amount of area denial, not that much. Again, it's a not bad star power. It's definitely useful, but it's also not amazing like some of these other ones. He's definitely not reliant on it to be that successful. At 18, it's going to be Dynamite star power. Now, Dynamite star power, if this was a funness ranking for star powers, Dynamite would be #1. And it is honestly a very fun star power. And the other thing with Dynamite star power is it is a bit of a high skill cap star power. If you are really good with it, I would justify easily moving it up this ranking. But if you don't really practice it, it's not something you use that often, And also too, it is a pretty game mode specific star power. It can be definitely useful in map specific as well. It's definitely useful in Showdown. You definitely need it to be a map where you have good jumps for it to move around though as well. Some maps are more open and it's not going to be nearly as useful. So Dynamite star power has its uses as far as avoiding enemies, but it doesn't really add extra damage, and there's not always that many situations where it's going to be useful, and it can be a little bit hard to use consistently and jump in the places you want to use. It definitely has its uses, and it is really fun though, so it's definitely not bad. At 17, it's going to be Poco. Now, Poco's star power's gotten a couple buffs in a row, and now it is pretty solid. You can heal your teammates for a good amount of health, and if you can combine that with an attack on an enemy, it can be definitely really good. So this is where Poco is pretty team comp specific, because if you do have other short-range brawlers on your team that can be in front of you, then you can heal them and then attack an enemy at the same time. You can get really good value with Poco's star power. And it's also especially useful in other game modes where you need to push on the enemy safe. And even if you don't have that super ability, you can still use your star power to get a little bit of extra healing, whether it's keeping someone alive for getting a goal in Brawl, or keeping, if you drop the gems and you have someone on your team who has gems, you can use a star power for that. If you need any clutch instant healing, Poco star power can provide a little bit of extra punch to get that done. It's not going to be a ton of healing, but enough to have an impact. At 16, it's going to be Shelly. Shelly's star power basically allows her to finish off enemies a little bit easier, and of course it can slow down multiple enemies at the same time, so this can be used in a couple ways. You can use it to, you know, of course, as I just said, finish up enemies easier. You can use it to escape a little easier. Say it's in Showdown and you're about to die. You can slow them down and get away faster. Or you can use it in Brawl as more of a defensive measure to stun people even more and slow them down, stop them from getting that goal, or allow you to have an easier shot at getting a goal. It can also allow Shelly to just cycle supers easier. There's a couple different uses for it, but it definitely helps Shelly build up her next super, which is the strongest part about Shelly. At 15, it's going to be Crow. Crow's star power has a solid amount of damage reduction, nothing crazy, but Crow also has a really fast reload speed and can hit multiple people, so Crow can keep on applying this damage reduction throughout the game fairly easily. On top of it, Crow's a really low health brawler, so it definitely helps him. It allows him to not get 2 or 3 shot quite as easily or as often, so it can help him stay alive, but it also of course applies to not only him but his teammates. Whoever he poisons is going to do less damage to everyone on his team, so that is a solid ability. At 14, and still in the C tier, it's going to be Tara. Tara's star power essentially gives her an extra 2,000 health and a small damage addition every time she supers. Now it is a bit matchup dependent versus like say a Poco or a Nita or even a Penny. It's not always going to be quite as useful, but versus the majority of other brawlers, it adds a nice extra boost to her super, which is already the best part about her, and just making that even stronger just makes that super even more fearful, which is going to have an even bigger impact on the game, keeping enemies further distance from Tara whenever she has a super, or just impacting the play whenever she has that super available. At 13, it's going to be Nita. Now Nita's star power has the ability to be incredibly impactful, but it doesn't consistently happen. If you can have a really good push with Nita and her bear, throw that down, both of you are getting hits, it can be really annoying, and that can turn out to be a lot of healing both to you and your bear. It can allow you to be really aggressive, completely push the enemy back, but that doesn't always happen. Sometimes you're going to be forced to use your bear in situations that just aren't going to be as good for your star power. It might be more defensive and you're not able to get quite as much healing throughout this. So there's going to be some times where Nita's star power is going to be really useful and you're going to get a lot of healing for both you and your bear, but there's also going to be some times where it's just not going to happen. And also too, it only works with her super, so Nita can be sometimes a slow brawler to build up her super. It depends on the matchups. Her star power definitely has the ability to be really useful though. All right, now we're into the B tier. These star powers are starting to get pretty solid and more consistent. At number 12, it's going to be Piper. Piper's star power can add a solid amount of damage, and with Piper, who has a very slow reload speed, you want to make every shot count. So this can allow Piper, who is a hard brawler, to consistently hit multiple shots in a row with, be able to hit less shots in a row and still get that kill. So this is definitely a solid star power for Piper, who also is going to be in the bushes a decent amount. There's a decent amount of bushes in Bounty on a lot of different maps, so she can definitely utilize her star power in a lot of different scenarios. Basically, this is star power that helps Piper be even better at what she's already good and best at, and that's sniping from a distance. At 11 and in the B tier, it's going to be Jean. Jean's star power has gotten some buffs recently, and it's now become pretty solid. It's got a fairly wide range, and it can heal a decent amount. It doesn't heal himself up, but Jean is a strong brawler right now, and this star power is definitely a part about it. It works well in a lot of different game modes too. It's not something that matters that much which game mode you're in. Of course, solo showdown, it's not going to work there. So if you're a solo showdown player, then I guess this star power is not very important for you. But if you play any team-based mode, this is a solid star power. At 10, it's going to be Carl. Now, Carl's star power, I mean, look, anything that adds more damage and allows you to get your super faster combined is going to be a solid star power. Carl's star power does both of those. He did get an attack buff recently to his normal attack, but his star power is still a really solid one. It helps him in a lot of different ways. It allows him to get off a lot more attacks throughout a game. It can have a big impact on the amount of damage a Carl is able to do and the ability for him to just shut down a lane, because he can definitely do that. At number 9 and the last one in the B tier, it's gonna be Leon. Now, Leon's super has gotten nerfed a couple times and it now only lasts 7 seconds, which makes his super worse, but arguably that makes his star power that much more important, because now you have to time that super even more, and having that star power allows you to move a lot faster, and that can definitely be key with Leon, not only for finding an enemy within those 7 seconds and getting to the angle you want to get, but even too in a situations where you have to escape from enemies and you're trying to get out of their visible range, this can be a key part of allowing that to even happen. It's definitely a solid amount of faster moves. Now at number 8 and in the A tier, it's going to be Bull. Bull's star power can add a lot of damage throughout the game. It can allow him to win multiple different 1v1s, especially with any sort of tank, but also too in heist it can have a big impact. A lot of times he's going to be charging in on that safe and he's going to get low health, and this allows him to deal a good amount more damage on that safe whenever he pushes. So this is a solid star power for Bull, allowing him to do a good amount more damage throughout a game. At number 7, it's going to be Rosa. Rosa's star power is a really solid star power. It allows her to be a lot more aggressive, healing up way faster than the majority of other people you're going to play against, unless they're staying in a Pam turret. There's not always going to be a bush around for Rosa to heal up in, but a lot of times there's going to be one somewhat nearby, and this is, of course, Rosa as a tank wants to be in the bushes anyways to surprise people, so this is a great place for Rosa to be, and it just works. I mean, look, she can heal up really fast in that bush, and of course if you have her super up as well, she's basically not going to die with those two together, so it's definitely a good star power. At number 6, it's gonna be Spike. Spike's star power is a really solid ability for a low health brawler who wants to be fairly aggressive. He's a high damage dealer. If you're trying to get direct hits, not just extended Spike hits, Spike's range isn't incredibly long, and with that really low health, this allows him to be that much more aggressive. Also too, of course, it allows him to go super hard in on a situation, because he can stun someone with his, or slow someone with his super, and then heal up and be in point blank or close range in someone and not be in too big of a trouble, because he has very low health. So this allows him to be super hyper aggressive, but on top of that, it allows him to just get really good value out of his super whenever he uses it, because even if you're not hitting someone with his super, he can still just throw it on the ground and heal himself up, and that's still gonna be good value, and that can allow him to just keep on throwing those attacks and not have to stop attacking, because this way he can heal up without having to do anything like that. At number 5 and in the A tier, it's going to be Rico. Now Rico's star power helps him out whenever he bounces shots, which is definitely when Rico is at his best. Not only does it add damage to every shot, but it also makes them faster, which means he's going to be hitting more shots, which ends up being a lot more damage. Also helps charge up his super faster, so it's definitely a really good star power for Rico, allowing him to get a lot more damage throughout the course of a game. At number 4, and the last star power in the A tier, it's gonna be Barley. Barley's star power adds a solid amount of healing whenever he attacks. This is really important for Barley as a low health brawler who's a control brawler who needs to keep people back. And if he stops attacking, it's gonna allow people to advance up the map and get better positioning. But with this star power, he doesn't have to stop attacking nearly that much. It can allow him to be a lot more aggressive. And throughout the course of a game, it ends up being a really solid amount of healing. Now we're in the S tier. These brawlers are much better with their star power. At number 3, it's going to be Mortis. Mortis' star power is so important for him to succeed. As a very close range brawler, the ability to heal up a lot of health every time you get a kill is very important because you're almost always going to be low to medium health every time you're in close range attacking someone. So getting that big heal as soon as you take a good amount of damage can be really clutch. So this is definitely important for Mortis. Every time he's trying to be aggressive, this is going to help him out a lot more. It's going to allow him to survive from that kill and go on and heal up behind a wall or go for that next kill right after. At number 2, it's going to be Jessie. Jessie's star power is very solid. It allows her to get a lot more value out of every single super, getting more damage with every super, and allowing her to get her next turret that much easier and faster because each turret is getting more value. On top of that, this allows her, with her star power, to now bounce shots off her turret, which is great for a couple reasons. Of course, it's going to heal up her turret, but it also allows you to get an easier bounce shot in different scenarios. You can play a really aggressive turret and get bounce shots off that turret to the nearest close by enemy and heal up the turret at the same time. So this can give Jessie really good value and allow her to use her turret in different ways and still get that good value out of that turret. At number 1, the most important star power in the game, in my opinion, it's gotta be Daryl. Daryl's star power is huge for him as a brawler who completely relies on his super to make plays and kill enemies in a lot of different times. He's got lower health and lower damage than a lot of different tanks because he's not going to be hitting as many shots. Daryl's star power allows his super to be way more successful. He's going to take damage rolling in sometimes, and of course he's going in point blank on an enemy when he rolls in, so that star power allows him to take way less damage. It's very important for Daryl to have that star power to win that 1v1 or 1v2 or escape away. It's definitely important for Daryl, and it's a strong one. Check out other great tier lists to help you improve at Brawl Stars right over there. That's going to be it for today's video, though. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you later.